The latest coronavirus relief bill includes $2 billion for the Labor Department to transform unemployment insurance systems at the state level. Labor Secretary Marty Walsh says the department needs to bring its unemployment system into the 21st century. Jonathan Alboum is Federal Chief Technology Officer at ServiceNow. He's former CIO at the Agriculture Department. Jonathan, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. When you look at what Secretary Walsh says has to happen and you look at the money involved, what are steps 1, 2, and 3 to make sure it works when it's implemented?
Well, Francis, I think that's a great question, because one of the risks in a situation like this, in my opinion, is doling out money to states without providing overall guidance and leadership and having a digital strategy around how to do this modernization. You know, when you think about an unemployment system, I feel like you can break it into a number of core components. You think about participant engagement, case management, payment systems, fraud detection, reporting, a number of core components like that that really are modules. And if the Department of Labor is positioned to play a leadership role here, they can offer up to states a variety of solutions to support those individual kinds of capabilities, and then work with states to implement those capabilities. Perhaps they could even provide them to some states where the states don't have the necessary IT capacity to do it on their own. But I think what we want to get away from is having all of the states, plus DC, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, running 53 independent, totally separate systems. And I recognize the systems need to be independent because the rules are different, but we don't have to have wholly different sets of technologies and different limitations that come with those individual technologies in each state. It creates a real issue around distributing payments, and there's, I think, an equity issue that we have to talk about as well.
I apologize if I'm putting words in your mouth, my friend, but it sounds like you're suggesting the Labor Department become a shared services provider, at least in the service component of this, if not actually providing the actual hardware and software itself.
So I think it's more of a leadership provider, technology leadership provider. I don't know that they necessarily have to provide systems. I referenced that as a possibility, but even more specifically, I think they can make certain technologies available to states. They could leverage the buying power of the federal government to have these technologies be available to a state to implement and to integrate with existing state systems. I think that if we're thinking about using platform technologies, we're thinking about scalable solutions, leveraging low-code, no-code concepts that are very popular today. We can think about how we can use these technologies to very quickly configure unemployment solutions that can work in a state with unique requirements and existing systems. So I think that the primary role for the Department of Labor is to provide leadership and to make solutions available that can work with existing state solutions.
From a risk perspective, Jonathan, is it a feature or a bug that each of these 50-some systems is in a different state of evolution?
Well, I think it's an indication of how lots of systems have been developed at all levels of government. They've been developed organically over time without a set strategy, and I think that's the difference here. The American Recovery Act puts $2 billion in the hands of the Department of Labor to do certain things around fraud and equitable access and speeding up payments for individuals without telling them exactly how to do it. So we have a chance to take a strategic pause, think about how we can create a system that scales, that can be used in multiple locations, that can integrate with existing technologies. So we're not in a situation where we have 53 different versions of a similar system at different levels of sophistication and modernization. It really matters where you live when you become unemployed, unfortunately, in terms of how quickly you can get benefits to get back on your feet. And I think it needs to be more equitable.
Is there a model for undertaking a project like this that has worked before, or is the Labor Department embarking on something new here?
I think there's some elements of something that is new. Oftentimes, state systems, and I have some experience with this from my time at USDA, they're developed independently with some state oversight, some federal oversight, but largely around how a state wants to operate. And in the end, you end up with lots of versions of similar things, which becomes hard. So I'm not, in my experience, aware of a program that's operated exactly like this, but there's no reason why we can't refocus our attention on a different operating model. I think one of the important things that it can do is give us the opportunity to think about how participants interact with these systems and how they interact across similar programs and similar systems on a journey when someone needs assistance from a state. And we can take a collective approach and think that modernizing government can be with the goal of making it as easy to interact with the government as it is with your favorite online service. And when we do those kinds of things and we integrate new technologies like virtual agents or maybe artificial intelligence, machine learning capabilities to intelligently route people to the right person to answer a question, we begin to create more of a common approach to how people interact with their government. There's more consistent experiences, and I think that raises the overall appreciation for the services that government provides.
Jonathan Alboum, thanks very much for joining me. It's great to have you on the program.
Thanks, Francis.